Hello ladies and gentlemen, and this is a very quick update on something that we've started talking about for weeks and months, but obviously yesterday we got Apple's official confirmation that we are gonna get an Apple event next week. It's a scary fast one happening on October 30th, and we already get more leaks, more rumors about it. Now, it's actually interesting because this kind of leaks and rumors almost democratize early access, right? You know how MKBHD says, oh, I've had access to this device for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, we sort of get that too, but instead of a review unit, we get images from Weibo. Admit it, it's not as good. So what exactly did we get? Well, we basically got packaging, right? And with it, we can assume some things about the new upcoming MacBook Pro that is most likely going to be based on M3 Pro and M3 Max chips, and that it's keeping pretty much the same design. We cannot tell everything about the display, obviously, from the image, but it's most likely still a mini LED panel, but a slightly upgraded one for better efficiency and probably higher brightness in SDR content. The screen already gets ridiculously bright in HDR content, but in SDR it's limited to 500 nits. There's some software works around for it. I don't recommend it for the regular user. So maybe this could then go to 6, maybe even 700, which would be really appreciated. But obviously this is rumors that we have now collected over months, right? This packaging does not give us that extra morsel. The design is basically the same. We seem to also be keeping the same notch. There's no change in like display size or aspect ratio that we can like guess from this image. The device does not seem to be noticeably thicker or thinner, so cooling probably is going to be around the same. Battery life is probably going to be around the same, especially if the display is a little more energy efficient, but the processor is potentially more power hungry. Again, a lot of speculation here. We might know some stuff about like the M3 already, but obviously the exact real world results will remain to be seen. Now, this is a tasty little morsel, but we definitely got a much bigger one recently, and that is Mark Gurman basically committing to finally more details about what we're gonna see at the scary fast event next week. And he basically commits to a next generation iMac chip, a new stand that is redesigned, but he does not go into detail in which way or what extra functionality it might offer, right? You know, like height adjustment, full on rotation, all that stuff that is like super expensive if you want to get it on the Mac Studio display or especially the Pro Display XDR. But it is what it is. Mark Gurman never likes to fully commit, but at least he's giving us more than he did a week ago, and colors seem to be about the same. So what exactly are we seeing? Well, supposedly the iMac will feature a new chip. Now, obviously that is not the most detailed thing ever, but it seems like Mark Gurman is really saying that that new chip is an actual new chip and not a new chip for the iMac family, right? Because the iMac currently is on M1, so M2 would technically still be a new chip for iMacs, but no. Mark Gurman reposted an older Power On newsletter. I do not go through the Bloomberg website because it's a technical mess, so big thank you to Mac Rumors for basically turning it into something that is actually enjoyable to surf by basically reposting that info on their technologically far superior website. And he originally said in the beginning of the year that a new iMac design would most likely coincide with the introduction of a new M series processor, so he seems to be sticking with that, which is also good. If like a 6-7 month old rumor turns out to be true, that obviously gives him a lot more credibility in the future whenever he makes like medium term predictions like that. The other thing is that the stand is internally tweaked in terms of its design. Whether that means it has some kind of intrinsic new functionality, again, like height adjustment would be great, or if it's just designed to be a little cheaper, we don't know. Supposedly there's also like a new attachment mechanism, right? Maybe Apple will go for the super standard VESA mount right off the gate, which obviously would be cool. It would basically save people the necessity to decide between getting a stand or the VESA mount when purchasing this device. So you could also like go for another stand later on. Again, Mark Gurman does not provide us those details. This is just speculation, as is the potential that we might get some hardware inside the stand. This has been an upcoming rumor for months and years, where Apple might want to put some hardware into the stand, potentially the brains of the device. That to me is completely out of the question. This is like old speculation when Microsoft introduced like their big like studio or Surface Studio, but with this it's much more likely that it's going to be just a tweak design, maybe offer an extra functionality like height adjustment. Who knows, if Apple is really creative, they might offer us something like wireless charging, but again, this is Mark Gurman, so we never fully know until the actual introduction, because obviously he does not like to be wrong. So he will say something like the stand's internal design has been tweaked, but he will not commit to what exactly that means for the end user. Now, of course, the new chip now will be the M3. The M3 most likely will keep a lot of the design characteristics of M2 in terms of like 4 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores. We don't fully know how many GPU cores it's likely to have. Most likely 10, according to Mark Gurman. That would be a little surprising to me, because we have 12 GPU cores on the A17 Pro, and usually the M series chips double the GPU core count of the corresponding A series processor. For example, the M2, which corresponds with the A15, has 10 GPU cores at max, while the A15 has 5 cores, right? So again, I can obviously not be fully sure. Obviously, Mark Gurman has much better insights into this, but this is what logic dictates to me. Now, we do have older reporting from Mark Gurman, and he seems to be sticking by it. He recently basically reposted all of that on Twitter and stuff like that. And that is the, CPU and GPU core count changes for the M3 Pro and M3 Max. Now, we are most likely not getting an M3 Ultra, because again, we're getting an iMac that is most likely going to be M3, maybe potentially M3 Pro. Again, we don't know that. It seems like it might be a single core, single chip variant, just M3, but we are definitely getting new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, as we can see from the leaked packaging that I showed you, and those would definitely feature M3 Pro and M3 Max. Now, if we go by Mark Gurman, there's actually some interesting stuff here, and that is changes to the CPU core counts and an ever so slight change to the GPU core count. The CPU core count is definitely much more meaningfully changed and much more interesting. Therefore, the M2 is either 10 cores or 12 cores, which either consist of 6 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, or 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. So the 6 performance core version is basically just slightly binned. Supposedly on the M3 Pro, we are keeping the same binned and non-binned counts of performance cores, 6 for the lower band variant, 8 for the fully enabled version. But we are supposedly getting 6 energy efficient cores instead of 4. That obviously would bump our core count up from 10 or 12 to 12 or 14. Now that is interesting. The multi-core, multi-thread advantage would not be that big, given that efficiency cores contribute relatively little in terms of performance once they have to scale against like 8 performance cores. But it could be a massive win for battery life. For example, the Snapdragon X Elite that was just introduced has no efficiency cores whatsoever, which was really surprising to me. So Apple might be doubling down on the efficiency cores in the Pro chips, where obviously people expect a focus a little higher on battery life rather than performance. Maybe a really good balance between them. On the M3, I would argue people probably favor battery life over raw performance. But then on the Max, it seems like Apple is really going all out for performance rather than efficiency and battery life. We see a massive improvement in CPU core counts from 12 CPU cores, which consist of 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores in the M2 Max, all the way up to 16 cores, and those extra 4 cores are entirely a higher number of performance cores, so 12 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. This would result in a massive multi-core / multi-threaded performance advantage. Not only is the proportion of performance cores higher than ever, but just consider that obviously the M3 generation will also offer you higher single core performance than before. I don't know what that would do to cooling. Maybe the Max versions of those laptops would have a lot more cooling capacity. Maybe there's still a chance for like a 10 performance core version for like the 14-inch version. Again, Mark Gurman basically commits just to this configuration between 12 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, and then you just double all of that for the Ultra. Again, the Ultra is not as interesting to us right now. The other point is GPU cores. Now, GPU cores seem to not have seen a noticeable uplift. There definitely is some changes here, though this is a little bit of old news, right? Mark Gurman might be sticking by it, but it does not seem like he has any new concrete data. So there is still a chance that the GPU core count would scale from the 6 performance cores in the A17 Pro to 12 on the M3, to then maybe all the way up to 24 on the M3 Pro. But I will be sticking by Mark Gurman's numbers, which seem to be much more based on like the very similar to what M2 is or has already done. I do have my doubts though about some of that stuff. Now, M2 Pro comes with either 16 or 19 GPU cores, depending on if you what version of the M2 Pro you get. And supposedly with the M3, you would choose between 18 or 20, which is like basically no difference at all. Like, why would, like, I understand that obviously this would be like paired with also the higher count of performance cores. So if anybody wants more CPU performance, they would also incidentally basically get more GPU performance. But if you're somebody who just wants a little extra GPU performance, that's just such a shame to be getting like 18 cores here or 20 for paying what is not an insubstantial amount. Apple likes their money for their SoC upgrade costs. Again, I don't know how much performance uplift there can be here. It depends a little on what memory Apple uses. Maybe LPDDR5X or 5T could help the GPU a little bit. Obviously, it's likely to have a new architecture that supports like hardware accelerated ray tracing, mesh shading, and metal effects upscaling due to with the use of the neural engine. But the A17 Pro has 20% more raw GPU performance over the A16, and that's an uplift from like 5 cores to 6 cores, right? Let me go to like Apple, iPhone. This is a spec point that I sometimes forget. You know what? I'll just go to compare iPhone. Yeah, here's the iPhone 15. Yeah, the A16 has 5 GPU cores. Don't know why I was doubting myself. It's the same one as in the A15. Yeah, so it obviously, it's on the A17 Pro, performance just seemed to scale with one extra GPU core. This would obviously be percentage-wise a much smaller uplift here, especially considering that you have something like 19 GPU cores versus 20, which is basically not an uplift at all, unless Apple decides to really ramp up the GPU core clocks. On the Macs, we would go from 30 to 32 respectively, or from 38 to 40. Again, I really hope this is not fully true, or it really has a very redesigned GPU architecture, and then again, as I said before, on the Ultra, just double it. But I really wanted to cover this because this might be like, there definitely seems to be something super exciting like on the M3 chips, right? Like the extra number of CPU cores for the Max version. The fact that we might finally not be getting the same die for the Pro and Max chips, right? We have a different number of efficiency cores here. We have a different number of performance cores. While if you look at the M2 Pro and M2 Max, right, they both come up to the same performance core count. They both have the same efficiency core count, right? Basically, the M2 Pro is a heavily cut down version of the M2 Max. Literally cut off parts of it, which are designed to be cut off. And here, this might be Apple more deliberately designing specific dies for more specific purposes. Maybe they saw that it didn't scale that well if they went from the same die. Who knows? Maybe they thought it was a little wasteful to create Max dies, but then having to cut out so many GPU cores to get to the Pro variants. Who knows? Again, I can only speculate. This is interesting, and as always, Mark Gurman does not give us all the details that we would like to know. I don't know how well Mark Gurman knows tech. Since this is sort of a video that is like a mix between my live streams and my more planned out videos, I wanted to show you Bella here. I don't know how well he knows tech, right? Because if I were a leaker in that regard and I were to post this, right, I don't know what I would feel beholden to like saying, oh, but you know, the A17 Pro has like 6 GPU cores, so why does this not have like up to 48 or maybe 44, right? Let's say one cluster has like one core disabled, and then we go down to 44. But why 40, right? This would make sense if this was scaling up from like the A16 or A15, which might have been what he saw when because obviously those leaks are from a while ago. They predate the launch of the A17 Pro. Maybe some of it is just speculation and he does not really know. But I really wanted to give you all the available info. Again, this is what he is still committing to. He is now committing much more directly to a new M3 chip for iMac. He is basically fully committing to M3 Pro and M3 Max for MacBook Pro. Whether or not he remains to correct with the CPU and GPU core count remains to be seen. Again, we'll have a field day analyzing M3 performance claims and obviously benchmarks once those devices actually out. And let's see if this specific Weibo leaker turns out to be a real one, and if this is actually the wallpaper that we get. Again, because we don't get actually too much more than that from this leak. Beyond that, again, thank you so much for the incredible growth of this channel. I'm looking so much forward to next week. As I said before, I also want to cover the Snapdragon Summit announcements, like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, the Snapdragon X Elite. I'll try to do that once I'm feeling not so much under the weather anymore. I don't want to hold you up any further. Please do all the YouTube jazz, as I call it. Like, subscribe, share, comment. And if you want to support this channel directly, you can find the link to my Patreon account in the description of this channel. If you catch me live, you can send a super thanks or a super sticker. Or if the video has already been processed, you can send what is called a super thanks, which is kind of cute. I don't want to hold you up any further. Again, thank you so much. See you in the next one. This is Mark Tech, tuning out.